of September 2016. We have a bunch of recurring items this week and a couple more new things. We're going to skip stand up again, unless anyone has anything that they would like to report that they've done specifically for TSC work. I'll leave this call open for a little while if anyone's got anything.
The Github Bot had their first meeting, was that earlier yesterday? I think currently we're sort of under the TSC. Yeah, just reporting that happened.
Hi, it's Tracy. I just wanted to mention that I'll be drawing up the proposal for I guess it would be the investigation for certain things regarding inclusivity working group transitioning over to the foundation. If anybody here would like to participate in that or be a set of eyes on that proposal, feel free to reach out to me. I've had a couple board members who offered as well, but I need more perspective, so I really appreciate that. And I should have a more codified version of that proposal in the next week.
I'd love to take a look at that, Tracy.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome, thanks, Anna.
Okay, and there was a foundation board meeting last week as well, which is relevant, and I sent a report around to TSC members on that. And we can, I guess we can answer questions about that a bit later if we have any. But let's get into meeting. A quick review of last meeting. We discussed the issue number 133, which was the request to do an investigation of migrating inclusivity working group responsibilities to the foundation. That was passed, and then we elevated that to the board at the last board meeting, and then that's been passed on by the board to Tracy and Michael to come up with a proposal, which will go back to both us and also the board. Because it's a more holistic approach, it's hopefully will span all the way from our responsibilities up through all the other foundation activities. So as Tracy said, that'll be coming up soon. We talked about TSC elections, and the decision was to come back for elections this week. I stood in on as sort of the final of my last term of as TSC chair on the board meeting last week. This week we need to try and sort out a new term. To find Node core, we hadn't made any progress, and we haven't made any more progress this week. Regular roll-up reporting, again, no progress and no progress this week. And then we talked a bit about NVM. We had Jordan Harband join us on the in the meeting to talk about the possibility of NVM moving in. It was mainly questions of process, and we didn't have great answers on process because we felt we needed to sort out a lot of the previous stuff and a lot of the defining node core and defining our scope. But we did feel that we probably should inform the board, which I didn't put in the board deck actually for the last board meeting. So we should probably try and remember to put that on the next board meeting, Michael, just to give a heads up to the board that this is a question we're considering whether NVM fits within the scope of our activities or not.
Yeah, that'll be easy. I mean, our next board meeting is next week, so we have a really short time in between them this time.
Oh, easy. Great. Yeah. Well, there you go.
I'm getting quick.
Okay, any comments or questions arising out of those items from last meeting?
No, just a quick clarification. That board meeting, is that going to be at Interactive?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why it's so soon. Yeah, I mean, we just had one last week, but that's just how Interactive basically happened. So it'll be the afternoon of the first day, So, by the second day, we'll have the board meeting be complete.
Are there going to be many board members in attendance?
Yeah, I think there's at least 5 or 6, at least, and then plus, all the foundation employees will be there, and we'll have the dial-in like always. So I think for some people it might be like really crazy late. I think probably it might actually be a normal time for Rod for a change. So.
So I guess if anyone's at Node Interactive from this call that would like to attend at least the public section.
Yeah,
then-
I'll probably sit in on that if I don't have a conflict. So.
Yeah, it's happening while some of the talks are going on. So just make sure that you're not signed up for a class.
Okay. So moving right into it. So TSC elections. The main question here is, can we elect somebody? And as far as I'm aware, I'm the only person standing, although James said he would if I wasn't.
I'm more than happy to let you continue.
The tricky bit is, can we get a quorum and enough votes within that quorum to actually elect? So
I think if you only have one nominee, they just get elected, dude.
Really?
Yeah. That's what just happened during the board chair election too, because only one person stood for each role, and so they just got it.
Oh. Okay.
With other organizations I've worked with, that is how it's worked also. So
Yeah, I think that's pretty
Okay.
common.
Okay. I would prefer a signal from TSC members that they have enough confidence in me to continue. I know that during the last year I've put at least a couple of people offside a bit, and so I wouldn't mind getting that the reinforcement of that, or otherwise. But okay, so let's there's one vote already on GitHub that was from Ben. So can we get from the TSC members here a affirmation, or so if you want to, let's do a proper vote then, just to see. So those TSC members here who are in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. And those against and abstaining. Okay, so that's
Well, we didn't get everyone in that, so some people must be abstaining.
yeah.
Well, like myself, I'm not voting, right? So.
Yeah. There's some people just don't have a vote. Like usually, if you don't say that you're abstaining, and there were a bunch of people that said aye, you just mark down unanimous. That's what we do. And we take the notes and stuff.
And that's what happens in the board meeting.
Well, yeah, if somebody, people do abstain quite a bit. Especially, whenever we pass the minutes, there's usually people that weren't in the meeting, so they abstained. So we just make sure that we mark down whoever is abstaining when they say that they're abstaining. But so many people are going aye when the yay vote is in that you just mark down unanimous, unless somebody says that they vote against it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We only got 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of us here. Oh, I gotta sort this out. Okay, look, I'll I'll post a comment about that on the issue thread. I guess there's not much else we can do. So the next item was defining node core. Michael, I presume that you haven't had any movement on this one.
Yep, I think. Yeah, there haven't been any more comments or anything like that, so no.
That's fine. Yeah, we'll get back to this. We'll loop back into this over the next couple of meetings, I think, and try and get this one wrapped up a bit, because I think we're close to a resolution. Rollout reporting as well. It's another one of those things that we'll try and get resolved over the next month and get that in action, because that'll be really good to start seeing. But again, I have nothing to report on there, and that was in my hands. NVM, we did leave them dangling, but we said we'd come back to it when we start finishing up our scope discussion. But we do need to inform the board, which will thankfully happen next week. Anything else on NVM? Anyone has to report here? No. So let's move on to this GitHub Bot thing, because there's some questions in here which I think are relevant to some other things that are moving. We have another project that's coming in. It was Nikita's ecosystem tool that has some questions about docs and stuff. So, William, do you want to talk to us about what's at play here?
Yeah, so I think it was the last meeting or the meeting before, we talked about contributing documents to all the things that are pulled into the org, and then having that approved by the TSC. And then right at that same time, Philip had pulled in the GitHub Bot without those. So I went after the fact and added those documents in. And from that PR, some questions popped up there. So like the GitHub Bot, it doesn't have a working group or anything like that. I don't think we're necessarily looking for a working group, but part of the documentation is governance. And so who governs it? And so I bubbled it up to the TSC just as the de facto. It's on GitHub, and TSC oversees the technical arm of the foundation. And the bot is going to be pretty cross-cutting for all of the repos. So I didn't think it really fell under the CTC so much. And then the other one was licensing. I think Philip had put in the package JSON MIT, and that was the only licensing kind of statement he put in there. And so I just used that one, but we're not sure what the desires of the foundation are for licenses.
Do you want to do licenses first? Michael, do you have that list? Because the legal working group of the board, sorry, the legal subcommittee of the board did come up with a list of preferred licenses. It's a fairly short list.
Yeah, that mainly pertains to like the incubator, and it essentially says that any project that we bring in will keep the license as long as it's in this list of licenses, which is like MIT, BSD, and Apache 2. There's another document in the formation stuff that says that any new projects that we do will be MIT licensed. We should probably get that changed to Apache 2, but right now it's MIT. So I think, either way, it should probably be MIT for now, because that's what the formation doc says. And if we're bringing it in from somewhere else, we're supposed to retain a license provided that it's good. So yeah, MIT is the way to go for that, I guess.
Should we get a discussion happening somewhere about maybe switching that preferred to Apache too?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, we should. I don't know if we want to try to have that ready by this next board meeting, or if we just want to have a longer technical discussion about it prior. But yeah, I mean, it'd be great if that request came from the TSC actually. So maybe we should start a thread about switching out the license for stuff that we for new stuff, and then
I can take
yeah. I mean, it'll be good for the community to kind of have this discussion about patent protection and stuff as well, because we haven't done enough to really educate people on it. So this is a good opportunity. Also, while we're on the subject, real quick, Rod, I really need you to update those copyright notices that got removed in the project.
Okay, I still did have outstanding questions about that for you though.
Okay, I mean,
in that email.
There's essentially a commit that needs to get that we should just revert as long as those files are still there. So.
Okay, I'll go back to the email thread that you and I had.
Okay, cool.
Let's see if I can find it. Okay, got it. So I'm just making a note here about MIT to. The thing about the Apache 2 license switch thing is that essentially came from the legal committee, but then it didn't go anywhere from there, other than just being a vague recommendation.
No, things are still happening. In order to change licenses, it's going to be like a lot of work, a lot of like legwork and getting people to sign stuff, and we also need to get Joint to sign something. So there's some work happening kind of in the background to make that happen. But the question about what do new projects or projects coming in that we could easily relicense because they only have like one contributor who needs to consent, for that kind of stuff, that can be a separate conversation and should be a lot easier to do.
Can we consider what the legal committee said as advice on the appropriateness of Apache 2? Like, do we consider what they said to be a recommendation, or are we over-indexing on something? That's what I'm worried about. Like, if we go back and say to the board, we want to consider switching the default to Apache 2, what's that based on?
Well, I mean, that is based on, I mean, currently we are actually trying to figure out the viability of switching the main project over to something with more patent protection, namely Apache 2. That actually, that already is happening. That is a recommendation essentially from the legal committee. It would definitely help to have the default for new things also be Apache 2 so that we don't, so that we have less things to move in the future potentially.
Okay, so that's in play already. Therefore, we can piggyback on that. I'll open an issue on the TSC repo.
I already did.
Okay. Cool. So that's issue number 139. So, Michael, maybe we should put this on the agenda as well for the next board meeting.
Okay.
There's a document somewhere, is it? Is there that says MIT? What document is that?
I'm trying to recall it. I don't know if it's in the bylaws or if it's in the TSC charter, maybe. Trying to recall, but I remember Scott actually mentioned it and brought it up when we were doing the other documents that outlined more licenses, because that document essentially builds on the other document.
Okay. Sorry, I'm actually just in the bylaws now because it's such a fun document.
Yeah, good luck. It may be the TSC charter too.
Yeah, okay. Let's not dive too deeply into this, but can we recommend for the GitHub Bot project to just go to Apache 2 since it's within the list of the 3 then?
This is so complicated. Why is this so complicated? It should just be easy.
It's not in the bylaws.
So it was technically created by somebody else and then transferred in, right? Or it's going to be transferred in. It hasn't been yet.
It is transferred in.
It is transferred in. Shit. Actually, been easier to do it before it was transferred in. Can we just wait a week, dude? Like, in 1 week we will have a better answer on that. Just wait a week.
Yep.
Because like yeah, I mean I don't want to violate the current charter because we just haven't gotten this done yet.
And no one on the bot side is in a hurry for this. This was just done to make the foundation TSC happy and complete. And additionally, I didn't get a sense that anybody was objecting to the Apache license.
Okay. Let's. I'm gonna actually. William, can you add a TSC agenda label to that wherever that issue is in the bot repo? It was issue number 13.
I did.
Oh, no, it was in the TSC 138. Okay. Well, actually, no. I'm in there now. 138. So TSC agenda, just to make sure it doesn't fall off. Now, the aside from license, what else do we need to consider here?
Governance.
Governance.
Yeah. So a project coming in. Who's going to be responsible for it? And this can be said for NVM too. That one may go to the CTC. Maybe that's too much work that they wouldn't want. But in reality, it might not really be important. But in that case where somebody has something objectionable about what's going on with it, unlike a working group where there's a list of people that have been delegated to responsibility to, these projects are just kind of, you might open an issue that would get ignored and something like that. So I think it's important to have some area, some body that should respond if needed.
And we have a few other projects that are in the same scope, like Node.js is sort of a floating one. And same with NAN, even though we sort of created this API, what do we call it? The native API working group?
Are you talking about what the API is called? Otherwise, it's the API working group.
No, there's another one.
There is.
There's 2 API working groups.
Add-ons.
Add-on API working group.
Yeah.
It's not an official working group though.
It should be. It was one of the initial ones we set up. But
Really?
it's never
I
had.
thought it was just under the other API working group.
No, it never has been. There's always been very clear distinction between the two. But it's never had a meeting, and it's only ever been done through GitHub. So it's a little bit more ad hoc. Let's see the working group doc. But I think that we're probably better off not leaning too heavily on the whole working group concept, and leaning in a bit more to just letting projects govern themselves, and allow people to gather around them, and use GitHub Teams essentially as a governance mechanism. So I think my preference would be for it probably to just come under the TSC with a GitHub team as a management group. There was a discussion in that thread, I know, about putting it under the build working group because some of its scope was there, and build would have to have some responsibility for managing it. But I know there was, particularly you, William, were objecting to that.
Yeah, I think ultimately the scope of that is going to be Jeremiah, I think, used the example of the website. The build team is responsible for getting it out there, but the website working group is like dedicated to the focus of that project. And I think the bot's going to grow into that eventually.
Yeah, I think that's right. And the other thing about the bot working group is that it's going to operate in these different areas. Like it'll go into the CTC's area, but ultimately the CTC is going to be able to have a say as to what the bot does in that area. So, touching issues, doing anything with stuff in that repo. It's the CTC's call. It's not going to be this new working group or this new team's call as to what it's allowed to do in that area. So those questions, I think, are fairly discrete, and they don't need to be answered within this bot group. But then it can go elsewhere as well and have different permissions elsewhere. Like maybe the website working group would be a lot more liberal if it goes to interact there.
And that's something I brought up on the call yesterday. And it seemed like everybody was very favorable towards it. Is that groups are autonomous, and there shouldn't be, if this thing's going to be effective and really valued, I think there shouldn't be like a group that has editorial say in what it does. These groups should be able to publish scripts and let it do what it does.
Can you tell us who would be on that initial group then? Who was on that call, and who else is floating around there?
Well, Jeremiah was there, Hans Christian, and was it Johan? Yeah.
Johan, yeah.
Johan.
And I'm sure Philip, but Philip just couldn't make the call.
Yeah, Philip's been doing a lot of work on it. Brian White's also been around it a bunch.
Cool. Sounds like a nice cross section. Because there's some good build representation in there, but lots of good non-build representation. Okay. So is there any disagreement to just recommending that back to the bot group that they just you'd move ahead to management by GitHub team? I'd like to at least see how that goes, because
that sounds good to me.
our working group process is a little bit too heavy at the moment for a lot of these smaller projects.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was really moving towards a working group. It was, like I say, just who to write down in the governance doc, where if something has to bubble up, somebody answers. But likely 99.9% of the time, it'll just be the team that responds to it and take care of it.
By way of example, SitGym, it emerged within the project. We don't have a working group. I don't even think we have a formal team. It's primarily Miles that drives that. But it's worked really well. We haven't had any issues. And I think a lot of that is because we haven't tried to put any kind of formal process around it. Keeping things lightweight is a good thing.
A lot of that is also because it's simply Miles and not really anyone else. This one could be more interesting if it's an active group.
And I think if there's been anything that needs input, he's brought it up to the TSC or the CTC.
Yeah.
But I mean, that just seems like the natural thing. If it hasn't been delegated to a work group, then anything that's contentious, it's up to the CTC to resolve.
And I think there's value in just sort of watching it play out. Once an issue does come up, we'll have a much more concrete case to work on, and we can figure out then where the best place is to move it to. And we kind of use that as a case study to figure out, what is the best role and see how well it works. I don't think it's something we have to answer right now or answer ahead of time.
Yep. Agreed. Hey, is that enough, William, then, to take back there?
Yes.
So the next one is related, and this is just put on the agenda by Jeremiah, but which the elevated GitHub admin permissions for the bot. Jeremiah,
Yeah, so
tell us about this.
at the meeting, I did tag this. I'm not sure if someone's meeting tooling didn't pick it up.
I made maybe it was just too late because I made the issue pretty far ahead of time.
Okay.
I wanted to say that that's an interesting problem, because on the one hand, I was encouraging earlier notification of meetings, but then that means some issues don't come up at the last moment.
Well, yeah, but you don't need to actually you can have the meeting notes edited a day before then or whatever.
Yeah, part of the responsibility though of a meeting chair is to make sure that the agenda is sorted ahead of time. So we do need to make sure that agendas are sorted out and published with enough warning for people attending. So adding stuff at the last minute is generally not good practice, but
right.
we'll try and figure it out.
Hopefully the bot can handle all of this.
Okay.
So this is a lot about some stuff that I think William would like to do with making inviting people to the GitHub org more liberal and easy, so that it can be delegated to team maintainers and not just admins. To do that, a bot that could do that would need to have admin rights to the GitHub org. As some of us on the bot team don't feel the best about that, so we'd like to bump it to the TSC, and specifically ask if the TSC feels it would be okay to at least investigate using a GitHub bot for that sort of thing, but have it separated from the main bot with like a little bit of elevated access somehow, so that not anyone can edit it.
Sorry. Team admins should
Team
be able to invite people to the team and therefore the org, shouldn't they?
Should be able to.
So
No.
isn't that enough?
Should.
No,
Should.
it's not. That's not how
Theoretically.
it works. It's so fucking annoying. So like the way that GitHub works is that team admins can add people to a team if they're already in the org. The only people that can invite people to the org are owners. It's horribly annoying. Yeah, that's why we've been talking about like having this bot be an owner so that it can invite people to the org. And a good way to add them to a team would just be to associate a team with a repo and then add them to the repo and then have the bot pick up on that and just add them to the org and put them in the team and then remove them from that repo. But I don't know how I don't really care how that gets done. But yeah, that's one of the weird limitations in how GitHub like really protects inviting people to the org for some reason.
Yeah, I have a working script and a video that people can watch to see what I had in mind for accomplishing this. But I wanted to call it more clear that this, to other people not so involved with this, like having that permissions means you could delete the GitHub Node.js org. So that's why it doesn't sit well for people to have, or a bot or something to have access to that.
And the other concern is that by giving it that access, we also give it access to the private repos. So if this bot becomes compromised in some way, it would actually give somebody access to Node private, the security repo, that kind of thing. So, and I know that's been one of the concerns with not giving external access to other applications. So.
There is actually an OAuth scope here for this, which is admin org, which enables an application to fully manage organizations, teams, and memberships. So there's a special scope in the API for this. I just don't know how far beyond that goes, or if that is strictly limited to managing teams and memberships. It does say fully manage organizations, so I don't know what that includes, and I can't find any more details about it.
Well, let's see if we can use that. But like honestly, I mean, one of the reasons why we don't give this kind of access to external APIs and third-party APIs is that we don't really have any control over them, and we don't really know what their security policies are. Yeah, we want to protect that. But like, if we're running in our own infrastructure something that has admin org access, I feel like that's different, and we can probably tolerate that, being that same infrastructure and that same build group like manages the release keys and all kinds of like, you know, if it were to be compromised, would really mess up the project security. This would just be another thing that we need to make sure that we manage properly.
I will mention that related to that note, Johan has some ideas of how we might be able to have a bot interaction with release machines to get us some more data of some sort out of those. And that would also require elevated permissions, but to Jenkins release machines instead of GitHub.
Yeah, in general, if we can control the environment in which these things are running on, and we can make sure that they do have the elevated permissions, and we trust the people that are running them, then I have no problem with granting those elevated permissions. We just need to make sure that it's fairly locked down before we hand over the keys. So
Okay, I guess No, I think I'm the same. That if we treat this like we do with the build release machines, like in keep it as much more protected than other resources, then fine. So that would mean not even handing over an OAuth key to this new bot team, but simply saying it's available on your deployment environment, which is managed by build and under the same sort of restrictions as the release machines. Then that makes sense.
Right. And we can investigate the webhooks that Mike was talking about to see if there's some way that we can do it without having the bot actually be an owner.
yeah,
I did a lot of testing on it, and it is that scope for manage the org, but it is very unclear exactly what that can do, and we can limit all other scopes. You know, we don't. It won't need any of the other scopes.
Yeah, it's just unclear like how far admin org goes.
Yep.
Which is really annoying. Somebody have a good contact at GitHub they might be able to get information about this from?
Not in a group that would know about this. I mean, no people in the Electron team. No another person joining the Electron team actually that I can't talk about publicly yet. But there's but it's they would not know anything about this.
Okay, well, I guess as if we keep it protected, then I don't really have a problem anyway. So, anybody have any issue if given those restrictions with giving out admin org? At least to experiment with anyway. Like this can be revoked at some point if we decide it's too free.
Yeah, ultimately, that's what we're looking for with this issue, was like a nod that the build team can deploy to an environment that has it, and where we got the green light.
Anna, you were unmuted for a bit. Did you have any comments about this?
Nah, I was just thrown out of the call. That's all.
Okay. Okay, well, that sounds fine to me. I think maybe it sounds like you've got at least one TSC member in the bot group, so you can move that forward between bot and build. Actually, you have Johan and Jeremiah, so that should be enough to move that forward. I'll make sure I get this documented in the TSC notes. But if someone wants to update that issue with your understanding of this as well, that would be good. Anything else about the bot you want to discuss here?
Nothing from me.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the more expansive role that the bot has to play in the org. Sounds like got a bunch of very interested developers on there, so it's great.
And I hope to talk about this next week at Node Interactive collaboration. So if anybody's out there wants to join and listen to me ramble about it, please do.
Fantastic. So who on this call is going to be at Node Interactive for the Collaboration Summit?
I'll be there.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, well, that should be a good time together. Michael, is there any chance of getting the Collaboration Summit stuff recorded or broadcast in any way? Or is that too much at this stage?
I doubt it. I mean, it's just like last time, right? Like, it's just, an unconference is a difficult thing to kind of record other than just the notes, right? So
yeah, I understand. It's just, it'd be nice to open up participation, but that's fine. It should be a good time.
If the Wi-Fi is good enough over there, I'm sure we can. Some of us could probably throw up some like Google Hangouts or something like that. But well, it's unclear how well that would work.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
I'm
don't go overboard if it's not if it's not easy.
But the notes will be, key, just like last time.
With anyways, I was saying I'm gonna attempt to record just with my personal stuff, and I'll see how it goes.
Probably good to make sure that people who are there and participating are okay with that as well.
I think another part of the challenge is I think at least some folks are planning on just kind of spinning off and having little sub conversations during it. So there may be multiple discussions happening simultaneously. So that may make it a bit difficult as well.
Okay. Public Q&A. Before we move on to that, is there any other public business to cover in the meeting?
It did want to mention one thing. Tracy, I don't know if you want to say anything about this, but Tracy and I have been talking about putting together a proposal for kind of expanding how we do recognition for contributions. This came up in a very good conversation we had yesterday with someone from the hoodie community about not just recognizing people that make commits, but contributions from all across the organization, whether it's documentation, answering questions, reviewing pull requests, whatever. So Tracy and I are going to be talking about putting together a proposal over the next couple of weeks and then bringing that in for how we can actually expand recognition more than just the commit list, right? So,
Yeah, we're gonna, we were talking to Gregor Martinez, it's also butchering his name. He has really awesome knowledge on this, as well as his partner, who is an economist, and really she did I think her last paper on this the idea of retention improvement via recognition in this way. So we're going to try and talk to her and see her input on that, and then we'll have an idea posted as an issue or a set of ideas, and we'd love to get input on that, because I'm sure lots of you have experience in trying things like that out like this and other communities or projects of your own. So we're looking forward to see how we can make more people, kind of be better about thanking everyone for their hard work.
That's cool. I look forward to hearing more about that.
and just a quick note: we've added 400 new contributors to Node since I think version 4 or something like that, or just before version 4. That's just new committers. It's been pretty amazing. So yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Wait, that's people that have gotten code in, right? That's not commit with the bit, right? Yeah.
Correct.
No, that's not commit bit. That's people who've gotten code in. So.
Right. Okay. Just wanted to clear that up, because I think we're at something like 80 or 90 committers, but not quite 400.
Yeah, I think the idea is to help make those 400 people feel like they can continue to come back and get a little more recognition, so that we can expand that committer set, or people are contributing in other ways that may not represent their activity by a commit. So.
Yeah.
And that's even up to folks out on Stack Tracer answering questions for the community, right? It's recognizing everybody that are making material contributions for the community. So,
and we this discussion does span into exactly the kind of stuff we're talking about with how we raise up and recognize people for these management roles. So even in the CTC, how do we bring people onto that legitimately that don't necessarily have a whole slew of commit bits, and the TSC even more so. How do we recognize people who are contributing but don't have commits in these really widely recognized places. How do we bring William on to the TSC, or do we just say, okay, TSC wants to invite William on? There has to be some sort of way to justify these things and make sure it, and also keep it connected with the rest of the org. So the TSC just doesn't evolve in this one direction, but it actually stays connected. So I think that whole discussion is connected.
So our plan was to continue talking about it. Tracy and I are going to be planning on getting together next week at Interactive to talk about it. So anyone else who's there, if you have some ideas, so we can all sit down and just kind of brainstorm on it with an idea of having a concrete proposal within the next couple of weeks.
Cool. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah. So this is somewhat on the same topic with non-code contributions. Yosuke, who's done like a lot of the Japanese translation work and stuff like that, he introduced me to somebody here in San Francisco from Japan who's starting a new kind of project for translation. And essentially what it's going to be is like some JavaScript that you drop in your page, and then people can collaboratively translate that page, and it can kind of turn on when they're in that locale. And it's sort of like this whole way to kind of do a better crowd-funded translation of content that is on the web and potentially changing. And so I'll be kicking off a thread pretty soon with him and to talk about that product and possibly using it, especially for the documentation, because we don't have any infrastructure for translating the API documentation right now. So heads up about that.
Okay.
That sounds really cool. I see the activity that happens in these working groups, these internationalization working groups, and I'm always just astonished that there's so much activity there that nobody ever really notices on the I don't know, on the foundation side maybe, or just the technical side. So it is there's a group out there definitely working hard, and love for them to get some major props.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Moving on, public Q&A. So if there's anyone who's listening to the live stream has a question, please drop it into the YouTube comments there, or the TSC repo issue for this meeting, or even on IRC, if you can find one of us there. We'll give it a couple of minutes for the stream to catch up to this. Anybody see any questions anywhere?
None that I see.
Not. There was up to 10 people watching the live stream earlier. There's currently 3. It was at 2.
Okay. Let's take that as none then. Okay, next meeting would be in 2 weeks from now. But be great for you guys to get together during the collaboration summit and chat about some of these things. Thanks everyone for joining, and thanks everyone on the live stream for listening. Bye.
Thanks.